Viewer discretion advised. This case is based on true events. Before we start, I please ask you to like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow. July 24th, 1997. Lander, Wyoming, a town framed by wind, sky, and the rugged peaks of the Wind River Range. 27-year-old Amy Roe Bechtel laced her running shoes, waved to her husband, and drove toward the mountain trails to train for a marathon. By sundown, her car was found on a dirt road. Amy was gone. She parked near the Loop Road trailhead, a favorite route among locals. Inside her white Toyota Tercel, keys, sunglasses, and a to-do list with Run Loop Road neatly crossed out. Everything else looked untouched. The only thing missing was Amy. When she failed to meet her husband, Steve, that evening, he assumed she was still out running. By nightfall, worry turned to panic. Search teams combed the forests, helicopters scanned canyons. Dogs traced her scent for nearly a mile before it vanished near a creek. No clothing, no footprints. No sign of struggle, just empty mountain silence. Friends described Amy as cautious, strong, determined, an experienced athlete who knew the area well. But even experience means little in those mountains. Thunderstorms rolled through that week, washing out trails and erasing tracks. Searchers feared she'd been injured or taken by the terrain itself. Yet no remains, no gear, and no trace of her bright running clothes were ever found. Then came rumors. Some said a stranger's pickup was seen near her car that afternoon. Others whispered about a local man with a criminal past. Attention eventually turned toward Steve Bechtel, the husband who'd organized much of the search. He was cooperative, calm, but when police requested a polygraph, he declined on legal advice. His climbing journals mentioned darkness, loss, obsession. Nothing ever tied him to her disappearance, but the suspicion lingered. Decades later, the case remains open. Every few years, hikers report seeing bright flashes of color through the trees. A running jacket, maybe, or just the play of sunlight on stone. The mountains give nothing back, not even whispers. In Wyoming's wilderness, the trail ends where silence begins. And somewhere in that silence, Amy Roe Bechtel still runs, forever between start and finish. Viewer discretion advised. This case is based on true events. Houston, Texas, August 22nd, 1990. Heat pressed down like a weight, the kind that turns night air thick and slow. 22-year-old Cheryl Henry and 21-year-old Andy Atkinson had plans for a quiet evening. Music, laughter, a drive into the woods just outside the city. They never came home. The next morning, Cheryl's car was found abandoned near a dirt track locals called Lover's Lane. The doors were locked, the keys still inside, windows down just enough to let the night in. There were signs of a struggle, grass flattened, a few drops of blood, and tire marks that didn't belong to her car. The scene was too quiet. Searchers moved through tall weeds and twisted oaks until, deep in the brush, they found Andy. His wrists were bound. He'd fought hard. A few yards away lay Cheryl, hidden beneath tree branches, as if someone had tried to cover what they'd done. Both had been killed, but carefully, deliberately. The violence was cold, controlled, almost ritual. Investigators believed the couple had been lured or surprised by someone familiar with the area. There were no witnesses, no suspects, no reason. Whoever did it knew how to vanish into darkness. DNA was collected, but the early tests were weak. Detectives kept the samples sealed, waiting for technology to catch up that would take decades. When retested in 2003, the profile matched a still unidentified man already linked to another unsolved Houston case, one involving a woman named Robin Ramos, found murdered 2 years earlier. The same signature, the same silence. The killer was out there, nameless. Families still visit the site, though the road is overgrown now. Sometimes candles appear in the dirt, melted to glass bottles, initials carved into trees. People say if you park there at night, the radio fades to static and you can smell burning grass, like the air remembering what happened. 30+ years later, the DNA still sits in a database, waiting for a match. Waiting for the ghost in Houston's woods to finally have a name. Please like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow. Viewer discretion advised. This case is based on true events. Sequoia and Kings Canyon National Parks, California, July 21st, 1996. A park ranger named Randy Morgenson signed off his radio at midday, his voice calm, his tone routine. He said he'd check an alpine meadow near Kern Canyon, a place he'd walked hundreds of times before. By nightfall, he was gone. Randy was 51, a veteran ranger, 25 years in the backcountry. He knew the terrain better than anyone, but even experience doesn't protect you from the Sierra. The mountains there are sharp and unforgiving, the kind that eat sound and swallow men whole. When he didn't check in that evening, rangers grew concerned. By morning, a search was underway, friends calling his name across canyons he used to describe like old friends. They found his boot prints on a narrow ridge, then nothing. No pack, no radio. No Randy. For days they searched, camping beneath the same stars he'd loved. Helicopters swept the valleys, spotters scanned glacial basins. The only clue was a stray note he'd written to a colleague the day before. "I may take a different route out. See you in a few days." Weeks turned into months, nothing. Then, 5 years later, in 2001, a hiker found a tattered ranger hat half buried in the dust. Nearby lay a broken radio and a rusted badge. When they searched the slope beneath it, they found him, or what was left. Bones, boots, and his watch, stopped forever at 12:05. Investigators believe he slipped on loose rock and fell hundreds of feet into the ravine. But others weren't so sure. Some friends said he'd been tired, emotionally, spiritually, after years alone in the backcountry. His journal spoke of loneliness, of wanting to disappear into the mountains he loved. No one knows for certain how he died, only that the Sierra kept him for 5 long years before letting him go. Rangers say when the wind moves through Kern Canyon at night, you can hear a faint radio call crackling through the static, a voice saying, "Copy that." All clear. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Viewer discretion advised. This case is based on true events. October 8th, 2009. The Sands Boyce Mountains of Oklahoma, empty, quiet, and cold. A white pickup sits abandoned on a dirt logging road, doors locked, keys still in the ignition. Inside are wallets, phones, a GPS, and $32,000 in cash hidden under the seat. But the Jamison family, Bobby, Cheryl, and their 6-year-old daughter Madison, are gone. Days earlier, they'd told friends they were scouting land to build a new home in the hills. A fresh start, a quieter life. They packed lightly, a few supplies, their dog, and that envelope of cash. Then they vanished between 1 mile marker and the next. When police found the truck, it looked staged, everything neatly placed, nothing stolen. Their dog Maisie was still inside, barely alive. The car's GPS showed a trail leading deeper into the mountains. That's where the search began. For weeks, helicopters hovered over ridges, searchers combed ravines. No footprints, no sign of clothing or camping gear. Just fragments of rumors. Some said Bobby had been in business trouble. Others whispered about a spiritual war he'd mentioned in a strange letter, believing their house was haunted. Cheryl's diary echoed it too, drawings, warnings, and fears of something unseen outside their home. Then for 4 long years, nothing. The case froze, like the mountains themselves had buried the truth. Until 2013, when hunters stumbled upon 3 skeletons scattered beneath heavy brush, just 3 miles from where the truck had been found. Close matched, DNA confirmed it. The Jamison family had finally been found. But death told no story. The bones revealed no clear cause. No trauma, no gunshots, no explanation, just silence. Police listed the manner of death as undetermined. Some investigators still believe they were murdered, ambushed by someone who knew they carried cash. Others think they got lost and succumbed to the elements. And a few insist it was something stranger, a pact, a vision, a fear that drove them off the map. Whatever the truth, it never followed them down that mountain. The truck remains in an impound lot, dusted and forgotten, a quiet monument to a family erased by mystery. Every few years, a new theory surfaces, then fades again into the woods. And somewhere along that narrow Oklahoma road, the wind still moves through the trees, whispering their names, soft and low, as if the mountains are still trying to explain what really happened that day. Please like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow. Viewer discretion advised. This case is based on true events. February 1959, the Ural Mountains, Russia. 9 students from the Ural Polytechnic Institute set out for winter expedition, experienced skiers, young, disciplined, and fearless. Their leader was 23-year-old Igor Dyatlov. They never returned. Their goal was Mount Otorten, a place its native Mansi people called "Don't go there." They laughed at the warning, scientists and students, not superstitious villagers. On January 31st, they pitched their last camp on a barren slope beneath Kholat Syakhl, the mountain of the dead. By the next morning, something had gone horribly wrong. Weeks later, searchers found their tent half buried in snow, sliced open from the inside. Boots, coats, and gear still inside, as if they'd fled in panic into a night of minus 30 degrees. Footprints, bare and sock-covered, led downhill for half a mile before disappearing into the drifts. 2 bodies were found by a cedar tree, barefoot, huddled near the remains of a fire. 3 more lay scattered between the tent and the tree, frozen mid-crawl, as if trying to return. The final 4 were discovered months later in a ravine under deep snow, their injuries impossible to explain. Skulls fractured, ribs shattered as if from a massive pressure, yet no external wounds. One was missing a tongue. The Soviet investigation called it an unknown compelling force. That phrase has haunted the case for decades. Some blamed an avalanche. Others spoke of secret military tests, radiation, or something the sky itself let loose that night. Photographs from their recovered camera showed smiling faces, snow huts, then suddenly a series of blurry images, lights, streaks of fire, a hand raised against the lens. Their families were told little. Files were sealed for years. Every rescuer spoke of a strange metallic taste in the air and orange-tinged skin on the victims. By spring, the mountain had become a graveyard. In 2019, Russia reopened the case and concluded it was a slab avalanche, but few believed it. Avalanches don't make people cut their way out of tents and run barefoot into the dark. Today, a stone monument stands where their tent once was, engraved with 9 names. Each winter, hikers leave candles there, and sometimes they say you can hear voices in the wind, young, urgent, fading fast into the snow. Please like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow. Viewer discretion advised. This case is based on true events. October 2nd, 2018, the Selway Bitterroot Wilderness of Idaho. A rugged maze of canyons, pine, and silence stretching for hundreds of miles. Somewhere inside that wilderness, 74-year-old Connie Johnson set up camp with her dog, Ace, and was never seen again. Connie was no amateur. A former wilderness guide and camp cook, she had spent her life in the mountains. That autumn, she was working with a hunting outfitter near Moose Creek Ranger Station, a remote spot reachable only by horse or plane. On October 2nd, the hunters left camp to track elk. When they returned that evening, Connie and Ace were gone. Her radio sat on the table, coffee was still warm, a jacket hung on a branch. Nothing looked wrong, and that was the problem. Search crews arrived within hours. Helicopters circled, dogs searched, rangers walked the ridges until their boots bled. For 10 days, nothing. Then, miles away, in steep country, a pilot spotted a flash of white, a dog, thin but alive. Ace. He'd survived alone in the forest for weeks, but there was no sign of Connie. Her disappearance haunted everyone who searched. Friends said she was tough, resourceful, the kind of woman who could build a fire in a blizzard and navigate by starlight. Getting lost wasn't like her. But a month earlier, she'd told friends she was tired of being alone, tired of the silence. Some believed she'd wandered off and fallen. Others thought someone might have found her first. A year later, a hunter stumbled upon a tattered sleeping bag and remnants of a camp deep in the Selway drainage. Nearby were human remains. DNA confirmed it was Connie. No sign of injury, no cause of death. Just the mountains keeping their promise. They never tell. Locals still say Ace returns to that spot every summer, seen by rangers at dawn near the old trail. He sits and looks toward the trees as if waiting for her to step out with a coffee cup and that same gentle laugh. The forest doesn't forget, it just waits. Please like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow. Eight-year-old David Gonzales vanished from his family's campsite, just 50 yards from his mother. A massive search found only his footprints, which stopped abruptly at a creek. 13 days later, his body was discovered 2 miles away in a steep canyon that had already been searched. There was no sign of injury, no cause of death. Rescuers say a child could never have gotten there alone. To this day, hikers report hearing a small voice calling for his mother in the fog. Please like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow. Viewer discretion advised. This case is based on true events. November 10, 2015, Brant Lake, New York. 72-year-old Tom Messick, a retired National Guard paratrooper and lifelong hunter, stepped into the cold Adirondack woods with 6 friends. It was the first day of deer season, clear air, soft ground, and a silence only old forests can hold. By sunset, Tom was gone. The men split into positions along Lily Pond Road, a short distance apart, each within earshot of the others. Tom sat at the edge of a ridge, a spot with good visibility and little undergrowth. He was armed with a rifle and a walkie-talkie. His son was hunting with him that day. He heard nothing but the wind. When the group regathered at 4 p.m., Tom was missing. They called his radio, no answer. They fired their rifles into the air 3 times, the hunter's signal for help. Still nothing. That night, the temperature dropped below freezing. By morning, dozens of searchers were combing the hills. Helicopters flew grid patterns, infrared sensors scanned the forest, and dogs followed every possible trail. Not a single clue was found. No footprints, no fabric. No scent it made no sense. Tom was an experienced woodsman with years of survival training. He'd faced storms, injuries, and night patrols in his youth. And the spot he disappeared from was flat ground. No cliffs, no rivers, no way to simply vanish. After a week, the state brought in the FBI. They searched for 8 days straight and found nothing. Even the dogs couldn't get a trace, as if Tom had walked off and evaporated. Locals began to talk. Some said it was a hunter accident covered up. Others believed something older was in those woods, a presence that takes without a sound. There had been other disappearances in the Adirondacks before, stretching back decades. Same region, same silence. His family never gave up. Every November, they return to that ridge, mark the spot with orange tape, and wait for an answer that never comes. His wife still keeps his hunting license renewed, just in case. The official report listed as unsolved missing person, but the locals have a different name for it now, the Adirondack Echo. Because when you call Tom Messick's name into those woods, sometimes you hear a voice call back. It's just never his. Please like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow.